Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the NSL's podcast. I hope you're all well who's listening. My name's Stephen, the host of the NSL's podcast. I'll be joined by two show regulars, Anthony and Ross. How are you both?
Yeah,
Good
all
mate
good,
yourself.
Stephen. Second podcast this week, so yeah, loving
You're,
it.
you're on a roll, you're on a roll. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be light in terms of what we're going to talk about, and obviously the game against Sheffield Wednesday and stuff. But before we move on to that, I want to address something. Now, as many of you may know, Lee Griffiths has been sent home from Celtic's training base in Wales. Over the last 48 hours or so, there's been articles circulating in regards to Lee Griffiths' online behaviour. And as this situation is developing and in the hands of Celtic and the relevant authorities, we at the NSL's podcast will refrain from making any comment until a clear outcome is reached. And that is all we're going to say on the matter. Now, as quickly as I read that, we're going to quickly move on, okay? Now, what was seen over the week there was Celtic's kind of first pre-season game against Sheffield Wednesday, played oddly in 3 sections of 30 minutes. It's the first time I've ever seen this. I don't know if any of you guys have, but it was actually all right. I mean, to be fair, like it did split the game up, and you got to see the players and the other players that come on laterally towards the end of the game. But we did start with a 3-1 win, and Postecoglou's got off to a win at Celtic on his first kind of manager, his first game as manager. Now, coming to yourself, Anthony. Now, it is pre-season, but I was buzzing for it. Honestly, was. I couldn't wait to get in and watch it, and I watched the whole game, and the first 10 minutes or so were a bit iffy. It was just back and forth, back and forth. Sheffield Wednesday could have scored a few, to be honest, but slowly but surely the youngsters who started that game did come into it. What was your opinion of the game as a whole before we get into actual individuals who might have impressed?
Yeah, like you say, Stephen, it's a pre-season. It's the first game off pre-season. There's the major European Championships is still being played as we speak. So yeah, there was that very much that feel to it, and a lot of fringe players been given the opportunity. But like yourself, yeah, I was quite looking forward to it. I think there has been a sort of a real sort of cloud of optimism with the new chief executive, new manager. They seem to have got off on the right foot, shall we say. So yeah, there has been a sort of a return of the buzz about the place, as the maestro himself once famously quoted. So yeah, I think it was as good a game as it could have been expected to be under the circumstances. It's played at. I mean, I don't know if that was Wednesday's training academy or not, but it was it was very much a training facility that they were playing it at, and although the results never overly matter in these games, it is all about fitness and building towards the start of the competitive action. But yeah, you can't. It's always, for a new manager coming in, it'll always be nice to start with a positive result, and we got that as well.
Yeah, definitely. What about yourself, Ross? I mean, for Postecoglou himself, I'm sure he was itching to get the first game out of the way. I know it's not a competitive game; it's pre-season, but just getting that win, getting this kind of style across to the players, it is important, isn't it, for the weeks coming ahead, especially the Midtjylland game coming.
Aye. I mean, to be honest with you, straight away, I didn't see the game, and I've not even had a chance to see the highlights. I've been so busy with work. But I mean, by all accounts, like there's shades of style being implemented already. Like Anthony, I didn't read too much into friendlies, but again, it's the first game. It's a new manager. You want to get off to a winning start, and he's done that. But I want to just touch on. I think it was a bit of a master stroke for him, if you like, giving Ayeti the captaincy. I mean, he's a guy last season that been so low in confidence, and for to recognise that early, and like I know there was a lot of youngsters. Who do you give the captaincy to? But to give it to Ayeti after the season he's had, it just gives him that boost. Right away, that the manager is believing in him and he's on side with him, and he goes and gets his goal in the game. I just thought that was a really good bit of man management straight away for Big Ange, and it's good, as we say, to get the win early doors, and it breeds confidence, and you just start to sort of build for there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the Eddie one was quite interesting when you seen that, because there was Welsh in there, Sorrow even to the extent, and Ralston, he's been there for 5 years. No, people have divided opinion on him. But, I mean, going through the lineup here, I'll just say quickly, for the first period anyway, it was Barkas, Montgomery, Murray, Dane Murray, that is, Stephen Welsh, Anthony Ralston, Sorrow, Kerr McEnroy, Liam Shaw, Ewan Henderson, Owen Moffat, and Albion Ayeti, Anthony. Now, for me anyway, young old Moffat really impressed me. He was playing on the right hand side, usually where Forrest would have played, and he was nippy. I mean, he doesn't have blistering pace by all accounts, but he is a nippy player, and he took his goal well. What players stood out to you in that game?
Moffat was going to be the one that I mentioned specifically. Stephen, he looks like the love child of Mick Hucknall, but he's got he looked good. Wee little turn, read the game well. I felt didn't look out of place. Again, we are having to put it under the caveat, of course, that it was a pre-season friendly, and no one's playing at their peak. But I felt for these fringe players, these games are also about seizing the chances that they get, and I totally felt that he took it with both hands, and I would say probably his goal was the pick of the three, to be honest. But just to touch on, I totally agree with Ross as well. I mean, we've all spoke, and I think it's one of the things we all agree on, that we do think that there's a player in Ajeti, and at the start of the season last year, just that his physique and stuff, he's never going to run the length of the pitch and beat three guys and score, but he's just one of those players that always seem to be in the right place at the right time. But for whatever reason, after his injury back in the autumn, he just never really got another look in. But I think if he's one of those players that I think if he was to get a significant amount of game time, then I think the goals, he would have a hell of a lot of goals to sort of show for that. And obviously circumstances at the moment, it suggests that he is going to be involved quite a lot going forward. So yeah, it was good to see him getting that sort of that boost, as Ross says, and and also he took his goal very well as well. I have to say it was a good finish.
He hit it early again, as he does.
Yeah,
sorry, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that struck me was his figure, his physique. He looked slimmer, he looked leaner. And you're right when you say, Anthony, he's not going to beat three men, blister and pace. I mean, I think it's William in the group says he's a bit Gary Hooper-esque the way he is. He's a penalty box striker, a poacher. And that's the way it's best suited to him. And given the captaincy, even though pre-season, it's kind of a vote of confidence, Ross, isn't it? And I know you didn't see the game, but Anthony made a great point in terms of the youth season, their chance, and players coming in, the likes of Moffat playing on the right-hand side. You get Liam Shaw coming in from Sheffield Wednesday, who I thought had an excellent game, very composed. Stephen Wells, he played a few games last season. And most importantly for me, I seen Barkas again. And I still think there is a player in Barkas. Now, come to yourself, Ross. What players there do you think could make a stake? Because, I mean, we're short in positions. I mean, what strikes to me most importantly here, the striker situation again has just got even more worse than it already was. Albinieri, has to be stand-up counted. Is Edward going to stay? And then you got the likes of Moffat, Shaw, Sorrow. Do you think these guys are going to be in going forward and around the first team?
It's kind of hard to say that just now, because you don't know. I've touched on this before. You don't know where we're going to be come like the end of the transfer window. But I mean, I read up in the game. By all accounts, Shaw had a very good game, and he's quite a big guy, quite a bit of a presence. So he could feature. Personally, I really like Ajeti. I fancy there's a player there, and if he, like Anthony says, gets a run of games, I think the goals will come. Because Celtic, the way that Postecoglou is going to play, I mean, you've seen it with the first two goals against Sheffield Wednesday, that we're going to try and win the ball high up the park. We're going to play that high press, and if we win the ball high up the park, then we catch the defence off guard. We can play the balls into Ajeti, who usually finds himself, when he has played in the right positions, he's a penalty box striker. So I think Ajeti could play a big part this season. Obviously, Edward, we think, is going to go. I think, obviously, with Griffiths, don't know what's going to happen with him now, but probably need to get another striker in the door to help Ajeti. I don't think, like, say, your bio is going to feature. So we do need somebody else in there. As regards Moffat, I think he took his goal really well. Whether he can feature in the first team remains to be seen. But obviously he's got a bit of developing to do in terms of his body and stuff like that and his stature. But again, I didn't see the game, but it was good to see the youth doing well. And I never read, but did Dembele feature at all in that game?
Nope, that
No.
one part of it.
That's quite telling, because I mean I don't think he's injured or anything like that. So we were all shouting for him to be in the team last season and that. But is it an attitude problem with him? Has Postecoglou seen that right away? It's a question you've got to ask if he is no featuring in that game yesterday where loads of youth featured. I just don't know what to make of him.
There is rumours going around that he is injured. He was pictured alongside like Bolingoli, training alongside the pitch in regards to a training session. I don't know how much substance there is to that, but by all accounts, it sounds like he's injured. But as you said, if he's not, then that is quite telling. And we don't know what's going to happen with him in regards to his future as well. Now, what we did see, well, for me, my point of view anyway, a couple of goals that they got were from Postecoglou's change of style. We got the first two basically by the high press. I mean, the Albiniani goal, left-hand side of the box, he struck the first time into the bottom corner, and that was kind of done by Liam Shaw. He won the ball high up in midfield again, and a couple of passes later, got the Albiniani's feet, he banged it in. Same with Moffat. His goal he took really well. It was from the high press, that high energized press where he snapshot edge of the box, half volley into the corner of the net as well. Anthony, do you think that we're seeing parts of Postecoglou's style coming into Celtic this early on?
Yeah, it certainly looks like it. It's something I would welcome, because I always find when Celtic play with a bit of pace and a bit of high energy, especially domestically, very few, if any, can get even lay a glove on us. It's just the sort of, almost in our DNA, almost of, that's just our preferred way of playing. I just think it suits a lot of our natural sort of outlook on how the game should be played. Obviously, it then does leave you a little bit vulnerable at the back with regards to European competition, etc. So, of course, all of that would have to be worked out on the training ground. But no, definitely in terms of like you say, the high press, high energy, you can't sort of criticise that at all. That's how we want to see a Celtic team play.
I know. One thing that I found quite strange, I mean, I don't know if it was me looking at the game kind of, too in depth. Obviously, you want to see that change of style, Ross, but one thing I seen was the fullbacks was Ralston and Montgomery, and every time Celtic went forward, they tucked in and essentially made and they kind of filled the gaps in midfield, which allowed the midfield players to get forward. It was a strange way of playing, but I mean, there was times I've seen Ralston. I mean, I don't think Ralston's bad Celtic coming in field into the centre midfield spot when we were attacking. The same with Montgomery as well. I don't know about yourself, Ross, but do you think that's a kind of way Celtic could play, especially with the kind of the right players in the right positions? Obviously, going forward, we'll see more about transfer activity. But in regards to style, how you find that? Do you think we're seeing the early? I know you didn't see the game, but you read up on it. Do you think we're seeing the early onset of Postecoglou's style?
I think we definitely are. But I mean, again, like I never actually seen the game, but I mean, time will tell whether that's how we're going to play going forward. But I mean, looking at the goals, we've touched on it, how we win the ball high up the park. I was looking for that in, like when I was going to watch the goals, I was looking to see if we won the ball high up the park. We done that. As regards to the full-backs tucking in and stuff, it's difficult for me to comment on it. But I mean, time will tell how we're going to play. It's evident that we're going to play with a lot of energy. You seen or heard when he was mic'd up, Big Ange was mic'd up, the messages that he was putting across to the players, and going off of that, and then the wee snippets that I've seen and read, I think that the message is starting to get across to an extent. It's very early days, but to see that, certainly what I've seen, the goals and stuff, it looks like we're playing with a lot more energy and pace than what we did last season, which, by the way, wouldn't be bloody hard, but it certainly bodes well for the future, and hopefully and I say hopefully, as it's early days, but as I said, it means the players are, to me, looks like they're sort of buying into these messages at this early stage already, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it definitely is. And before we move on from the Sheffield Wednesday game, I want to talk about one player just quickly anyway, and that's Ozan Edouard. He scored, hopefully. Do we think, I mean, from what I've seen of him anyway in the game, he did look like he was making runs. He looked like he was happy on the pitch again, and he was talking to players, smiling and stuff. Do you think maybe Postecoglou can put an arm around them and convince them to stay on?
You never know. I hope. I must admit, I hope so. Even if that means us, losing him for nothing next year. But by the same token, if we're not going to get the kind of fee that we would have got for him pre-COVID at this moment in time, just with the way the market is. So any sort of sale, if we were to sell him right now, I don't really think we would see much in terms of any financial sort of benefit to it, because PSG would be just so much of the fee. So if he can be persuaded to, and like you say, his body language and his whole demeanour seems to be more positive. Little clips at training and whatever, he's smiling and laughing and having a joke. He's not got that sort of dour, fed up, doesn't want to be here kind of sort of face that he had at the tail end of last season. So yeah, if he's happy, then I would be happy to keep him for another year, especially, and maybe try and get ourselves back into the Champions League, and then the world's his oyster, so to speak. The one club that it seemed to have the most concrete interest in him was obviously Brendan and Leicester City, but I think that all that sort of talk seems to have went cold since they signed the other striker. I think it was about 20, 24, 25 million pounds they've spent. So I mean, Leicester are obviously a very wealthy club, but they don't have a bottomless pit either, and Jamie Vardy's not going anywhere either. So I'm not sure. Okay, it would be a move to England, but would he really fancy going down there and not being the number one? So yeah, for as long as he's with us, I would say use him and utilise him, even if that means him being cup tied in Europe or whatever. If he was to move further on down in the window, we are painfully short of strikers at the moment, and until reinforcements arrive, you got to, if you're £9 million players available, record signings available, then he's got to be in the team for me.
Yeah, I think the Leicester deal's dead, because I think there's all this about Rodgers tax in regards to the transfer fee, sell-on clauses, all that kind of thing, and I think they're about to complete or have completed a £23 million signing of a striker. So I think we can wave goodbye to Leicester on the Edouard front. But coming to yourself, Ross, I mean, Anthony made a great point there. If he's available, he's a record signing, and if we get the happy Eddie back, surely that's going to be beneficial to us moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, at the same time, I don't think it can be ignored that he absolutely downed tools last year. Whether it was because he didn't get the move that he was looking for, whether it was because he fell out with Lennon, whatever it was, he downed tools, and that for me sort of can't be forgot, especially in what was at stake last season. But he wasn't the only one, and again, it's like the way we are now. If we let him go, where does it leave us? If we can keep him, then I would absolutely go for it. And if we can get him back to what he was, which I believe that if he does stay, then obviously Ange's got him on side, and he's going to bring absolute excellence to that front line. So it's a no-brainer if he's going to stay for another year. And as Anthony said, we're not going to get much. We're not going to gain much financially by selling him this year because of the deal with PSG. So for me, if we can keep him, let his contract run down. If that's going to be the case, PSG get nothing. They don't need money anyway. We get nothing, but we get another good year out of a top class striker. So I sort of, for me, if we can do it, it's a no-brainer.
I do agree with you in terms of he did down tools last season. I was pretty vocal about that on previous podcasts and stuff. And I think at one point I said he doesn't deserve to stay at Celtic, but obviously as the situation of the striker front gets worse, we need all we can get. And I think it's a kind of wait and see situation, which brings me on to the next segment of the show, and that's Postecoglou and his pre-match interviews. Now, I don't know if you've seen this, guys, doing the rounds on Twitter and various social media accounts, and the one he did with Sky Sports particularly, where it looks like he's a bit dejected, a bit frustrated, and he says something along the lines of what the the presenter said, who's going to go, blah, blah, blah. He said he's not in control of that. People have read so much into that comment. And likewise, in terms of incomings as well, he didn't seem too confident there'd be anything to be announced in the coming days or weeks. Now, if you come to yourself, I mean, it is a bit concerning that it's kind of dulled down a bit in terms of incomings. I mean, we've read loads of rumours, and in his fan press conference, he did say that Celtic needed signings yesterday, but it seems to have died down a bit. Do you get that feel?
I must admit, I caught the interview. I watched a bit of it before we came on. I must admit, I just thought it to me just looked like a man playing his cards very close to his chest. Stephen, I think the comment that you say that I'm not in control of that. I suppose in a way is true. The way I look at how I interpret that is that although he's got his the players he wants to come in, and obviously he'll have his own desires, and he'll have the list of candidates that players that he wants to bring in. But although I think he has the final say on that, and I think he gets to call the shots on which players he wants, but when he says that he's not in control of that, I don't think he's I have no control. That is up to Dominic Mackay or anyone else. I think what he's meaning is there's so much else going on. Celtic can only do what Celtic can do, but they can only do how sort of operate how the market dictates. So I think when he's saying I'm not in control of nobody's going to leave if nobody bids for the players, which he can't control. And if with price, I mean, there was rumours that Bologna then doubled their asking price, for example, for Aaron Hickey. That's not something he can control. So that I think that's the sort of point he's trying to make, and he maybe could have worded it a bit better. But the consensus I took from it was that essentially there are different factors at play. I've got no doubts that there will be reinforcements at the club soon. Just for, like you say, and as he alluded to as well, that there has to be. It's just a numerical fact. But having said that, I would rather they got the sort of proper players in rather than just signing guys for the sake of signing them to, give us something to put on our social media pages on a Friday afternoon. So yeah, I think we don't have to push the panic button on that front so far. As regard to maybe his demeanour, I mean, he is known as, that was one of the qualities that we almost heard about when we've been studying his backstory before he came over here. He is not a fan of the media, whether that be print, whether that be broadcast. It's not something that he's very comfortable doing. I think he would rather sit and talk to a group of supporters rather than, the assembled press. And obviously, I know we're trying not to comment on it, but of course he's obviously dealing privately with a very serious incident as well. Probably the last thing that he could be bothered doing pre or post a pre-season friendly with Sheffield Wednesday is answer questions from the media that they know themselves that he can't give a clear-cut answer to. So if there was any annoyance, I don't think it was due to any issue with Dominic Mackay or the way we were carrying on or going for players or anything like that. I think it's maybe just certain situations that we're in at the moment. But yeah, I wouldn't be pressing the panic button on any front on that front just yet.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I get what you're saying, and Ross, I'm going to get your opinion on this, but it is concerning the fact. I mean, if you look at it in a whole kind of situation, this transfer policy thing and the recruitment side of things, the Celtic has been up for like a talking point for years gone by. Nobody really knows who's controlled, and like Ross in terms of who's coming in, who's going out, and the fact that he said he's not in control of outgoings means it's like if they get a bit high enough, which again, Celtic are first and foremost to have to keep a profitable business and keep themselves afloat. But is it not a concern to yourself, Ross, that he's already this early on kind of saying, look, I'm not in control of that side of things, and in the fan press conference it kind of sounded like something else?
Well, first of all, can I just say I think that Anthony's stole my notes, because I'm going to echo everything that he just said, basically. I mean, for me, like Anthony says, I think I wouldn't read too much into his comments and his demeanour. I think he's touched on, he's playing his cards close to his chest. He's not revealing too much, whilst saying the club is working hard on incomings, which I've no doubt they are. He's alluded to the fact that he's fully aware that significant change is needed. Certainly, given the amount of loanees that have already gone, I mean, you have to be blind. Everybody is aware of that. As regards his demeanour, I think he's probably bored answering the same questions that he's been probably asked for the last fortnight or maybe more. Was like say on Ayer leaving and stuff like that. I mean, Ayer's came out and said that he's wanting to leave. What else you want me to say? Like, if somebody makes a bid, Celtic will probably accept it if it's a good enough bid, because he doesn't want to be here. He wants to be elsewhere. I don't know what he's expected to say. He can't keep answering that question. Everybody knows that Ayers want to go. I mean, he knows he wants a certain type of player. So, like Anthony said again, it's not just like he's not just signing for the sake of signing. He wants a certain type of player. That in turn could hold things up, as the certain exact types that he's looking for might not be available just now. And also, at this time of year, it's notoriously hard to get players in. A lot of players are still on holiday and they're not back at their respective clubs. I mean, what I've seen of Ange Postecoglou fae came in, he's not a daft man, and he's fully aware we won't get all our targets. But I'm calm about things, as I always am. I don't think the likes of Edward and Ayer will be allowed to leave before the qualifier if we didn't have like able replacements. But for me, moves are being made. That much is obvious. But it's been 2 weeks. I think I might be right. I'm right with that. It's been 2 weeks. He's been working, and I appreciate we didn't have a lot of time, but 2 weeks isn't slow in the grand scheme of when he's came in. It's nothing really. For me, it's a time for patience, and come May, I'm confident he'll have got it right. I mean, there'll be more signed. I'm confident there'll be more players signed before that qualifier comes around. But there will also be signings after that qualifier, because there just isn't enough time. It is what it is. But they won't get everybody in that they want to sign before this qualifier. It's just not possible. But I still think that we've still got a lot of senior players there that might probably won't be leaving. And if they're buying into Postecoglou, they're going to be like new signings in itself. So I don't think it's really as bad as what we all think, because it's going to be a new style implemented, and these guys will be rejuvenated, and there'll be a new optimism within the squad, and they'll want to do well. I just think that they were disillusioned last season, a lot of these players, and it can't be excused for downing tools, which a lot of them did. But there'll be a lot of guys in that team that will be totally different players this year under Postecoglou, in my personal opinion. I really believe that.
I 100% get what you're saying, Ross, right? But let's get real for a moment, right? You say, we've heard this phrase, working hard behind the scenes. Lenny said it, Roger said it, far back as Strachan, far back as O'Neill. They've all said that comment, right? You look at the transfer window so far, we've signed Uragidi on a free transfer, development fee, and Joey Dawson for the B team to play in the Lowland League. We completed the signing of Liam Shaw, which was actually done January time on a pre-contract, thankfully. And in the grand scheme of things, for me anyway, that's not good enough, because they came in them fan meetings before all this was announced in terms of Postecoglou. They were saying, unless you back us with season tickets, we can't invest in the team. And Celtic, by all accounts, well, the rumours anyway, over 50,000 season tickets have been sold. Do you think, as a Celtic fan looking at that market or that transfer market so far, that it's good enough? Really?
At this exact moment, I don't really know what else we're expected. Where else we're expected to be. We've got of course, there's rumour mill is, it's always happens at this time of the year. But Ross just nailed it there. The European Championships are still on, and in any major tournament summer, the market is notoriously slow. There's not been anything very, very public that a player has snubbed Celtic or anything like that. James Forrest alluded to the fact that I think the Sunderland player, I think you pronounce his name, Charlie Wyke or Wick, seemed to be very high on our radar until Postecoglou came in, which suggests to me that Postecoglou's got a very specific way or type of player he wants and how he wants the players that he wants. So it shows that he's not just coming in and being accepting previous targets or anything like that. At this moment in time, you can only do what the market dictates. And like you say, as Ross says, 2 weeks in the job, and 2 weeks does move quickly. We will not. The team that lines up against FC Maitland in 2 weeks' time will not be the team that is there when the European deadline closes. There will be comings and goings way before then. It's even if we'd won the league last season and been in the Champions side of the draw, it is ridiculous that we are a club of our stature are in the tournament qualifiers as early as this, and it's just one of those things. We can't sign anybody for the sake of signing someone. I would rather wait until the guys that we want are available, rather than just throwing money throwing money down the drain for the sake of a good tweet.
No, look, I mean, I get that. Obviously, before we move on there, Anthony, what way did you say that team? FC Maitland?
FC Maitland? I don't know how. I have no idea how you pronounce it, man. There's a lot of J's in there.
I thought I was the worst in this show. That by far tops it. It's FC Michelin. But I get what you're
okay.
I get what you're saying, Anthony. But Ross, look at this. How many times have we been through these qualifiers unprepared with the wrong squad, and we had to get pumped out? It seems like the Celtic only invest money when they kind of get through the stages and get into the group stages, and even at that fact, it's still not enough. Surely it's time, if it's a rebuild, to back the team and get through these qualifiers, regardless if it's Europa League ones or Champions League, and at least get us into European football for the foreseeable future.
Of course it is, but like Anthony said, are the signings that he wants available right now? Maybe not. Of course it's a gamble, like going into this without. But at the same token, like we've still got Aya, we've still got Edward, we've still got these guys in the team, in the squad, and as much as Aya is wanting to go, and we've known for a while he's wanted to go, he's always gave 100% for the jersey when he's featured, and I fully believe that guys like Aya, Edward are going to be there for that qualifier, like especially if we don't get the guys in that Postecoglou is wanting. So I get what you're saying, Stephen. They should be backing the manager, but like they will in time, I believe. Like he's been there 2 weeks. I know they've probably had conversations previous to that, but he needs to. It's only 2 weeks, really. And it's very early in the window. I've touched on already. It's hard to get guys in at this time of year. So I understand what you're saying. They do need to back him, but they also need to have a bit of patience and give the club time to back him. Do you know what I mean? It's only been 2 weeks. Give them time. Get off their back and just.
All right. Yeah, like, not nobody's.
No, but aye, but like, see, last season we signed. We thought it was great. We've signed all these players. Spent 20 million, and it went wrong. Right? Celtic probably looked at that, kind of stayed back and thought, right, we need to take our time here and get this right, because we really did, for want of a better word, fuck up last year. So
true.
We need to take our time and just have a bit of patience and just give them time. And at the end of the window, when the door closes or the window closes, then make a judgment on Celtic, because right now I don't think it's fair.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I'm not coming across as in the terms of I'm on somebody's back or on the team's case or Postecoglou's case this early on. I'm just merely making the point that
No.
surely there should be more incomings than there is now. But again, you guys make a great point. Maybe, as you said, Anthony, Charlie White was high up in the list of targets before he's come in. He's looked at him and went, nope, not for me. And he's kind of dwindling down whenever less Celtic have, picking players that fits his style, even though it's players he's not probably scouted himself. And we've seen that with Urigidi. But we don't know that. And again, I do have patience. I've always been behind Postecoglou and Celtic, and I just want them to do well. Now, the next crazy rumour that was seen today coming out on the Twitter sphere, and my co-host John will be bashing his keyboard when he hears me say that because he hates me saying these rumours. But you look at one of them Australian podcasters, very close to the whole Postecoglou deal when it was happening and after as well. He came out and said on Twitter from the A-League blog, or I can't remember the exact name of the Twitter account, but it's something along them lines, basically saying that Postecoglou was told that he can't bring any staff with him, Anthony, and he has to inherit staff within and develop them within his coaching philosophy. Now, we have seen various sources come out again and say that's totally untrue. Where you stand on this? Do you think that was a bit of hype, blew up out of proportion?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a quick dig seems to suggest that this is this person that's made these comments on the podcast down under is a bit of an opportunist, shall we say. Ange Postecoglou will be massive news over there at the moment. He'll be, I dare say that the rolling channels will be, perhaps reporting on him and anything that he says or does, and anything that someone can, if they can name drop him into the chat, then perhaps they'll get more views or listens or whatever. A very well-respected Celtic channel reached out to the club and were told categorically that what the guy was saying was nonsense. There are all kinds of restrictions when it comes to travel at the minute with regards to, getting staff over. I'm even if it is even from the other side of the world that they would be coming. Again, I thought it was a non-event when I read it, and then and I must admit, I'll give the club credit for it, because this was this type of thing that under the previous administration would be allowed to get bigger and bigger and bigger until the point when you're reacting to it. It's the old saying, a lie gets round the world 3 times before truth even gets to tie its shoelaces.
Like that one.
Celtic have crushed it. It's nonsense. In time, and that doesn't necessarily mean to say that Kennedy and Strachan will be sent packing or anything like that. The coaching staff may well remain, but there will definitely be staff there on Postecoglou's say-so and on his wishes, because I think it's, the history's littered with managers that decide to not bring their own trusted staff in. Unfortunately, in our case, very recently with Neil, I think it was, although he has to take some of the blame himself on that for still accepting the job under those circumstances, he really should have insisted on being able to bring in someone that he trusts, because it doesn't matter if you're the manager of Glasgow Celtic or Real Madrid or Falkhouse United. If you're the man in charge of tasked with picking the team and trying to get positive results and try to create a positive culture in the dressing room, then you've got to have somebody in there that that has got your back as well, and won't be perhaps currying flavour with the players and then saying the things you want to hear, but saying something different when you're not in the room. You need to have a trusted lieutenant, or several if possible. So yeah, Celtic's backroom stuff will look very different very soon, I would imagine.
I have to say, Ross, for a moment there, I did believe it when I seen it, and obviously, just to allude to what Anthony said, Anthony, I can just imagine you sitting there with your big book of quotes and analogies, crossing these off one by one each time.
I'm running out of them, mate. I'm running out.
But for a second, Ross, when I seen the actual tweet itself, I did believe it. This is obviously before it was confirmed, and it's been a kind of misconstrued, and it's a lie. And as Anthony said, there are brilliant lies travel around the world before you even get to tie your shoelaces more the truth hits you. But you do look at it. I mean, again, Celtic do have form for this kind of thing. More recently with Neil Lennon, he took the job under them circumstances, and as Anthony alluded to, he should have at least insisted in bringing one guy in, or one trusted lieutenant, the likes of Mialby or Gary Parker again. But did that concern you when you seen that? Are you very much now kind of just been like, that's just rumour, let it go to bed?
When I first seen it, I thought BS straight away, because purely, I mean, Anthony's totally nailed it there, but straight away I thought, well, it was only last week that Postecoglou and Mackay had basically came out, had answered whoever it was that asked the question, I can't remember, and I'm sure it was the fan media presser, and they answered it like conclusively that it was an ongoing process, and it's been well documented, and they sort of alluded to it that when Postecoglou comes in, everybody's given a clean slate, and he makes calls as he goes. He said that himself along the lines. So, I mean, it doesn't get fairer than that. And because of that, when I seen that, I thought, this is just somebody name dropping, trying to, like Anthony says, get more views on whatever podcast it was he was on. I'm behind the both of them. And for now, your man Rallis can just spin in it, basically.
I tell you, Ross, it's these amateur hour podcasts that give all of us a bad name. Would you not agree? I tell you.
Yeah. Oh,
only listen
here.
to the reputable one. Only listen to the reputable ones, the chart topping ones.
Yeah.
I get Hey, Ross, that's enough of the speak on this podcast, telling you now. No, but like, I do get where you guys are coming from. I mean, the reason why I kind of bit on it straight away was because Celtic do have form for that sort of thing. And again, after you made a good point in terms of staff may not be sacked, they may be moved around. And Postecoglou said that himself in both press conferences, actually. He alluded to the fact that staff can be moved around and people are brought in without letting anyone go. Now, what's coming pretty quickly here is the Champions League qualifier game against FC Midtjylland. At the moment, as we discussed previously there, the transfers kind of, for me anyway, left a wee bit to be desired. I thought there'd be more by now, but come to yourself, Ross, first. I can't remember how many days. I think it's like 12, 13 days it is away. Are you confident we can get a result in the first game at least to kind of keep the tie alive? I mean, that's me speaking from the fact that I'm thinking Celtic are going to lose. Obviously not. I'll never want that. I'm just trying to be realistic about it here with the position we find ourselves in. What's your take on it at the moment anyway, as it stands?
Well, firstly, remind me, is the first leg at home or is it away?
It's at home.
First leg's at home, mate.
At home. First leg's at home. I mean, it's like I've touched on in a previous podcast. I don't think MD's under any illusions. It's going to be a tough game. I don't know a great deal about them apart from like their record in recent times in Europe has been pretty good. They've got a few good results. It's going to be a very tough test. I don't think there's a lot between the teams, but we've obviously got, like you've said there, maybe 12. The best part of a fortnight before the game comes around. That's another fortnight for Postecoglou to implement and print his message into these players. Senior players are coming back, who are, like I've said already, they're going to be rejuvenated. If we can add some players to that in the meantime, then I am confident that we can get through the tie, but it's going to be very, very difficult. But I fancy we could. I would like to take, obviously, best case scenario, we'd like to take a 2-0 win or something over there, but I would take any sort of win. If we can keep a clean sheet, amazing, obviously. But is the, what do you call it?
The away goal route?
Aye. What do you call that? Just the away goal route. Is that no coming into play? So it doesn't really matter. Just score more than them. And the way Yeti's playing now, man, he's banging goals in for fun. We'll be sound.
He's scored one. Calm yourself down, Ross.
I'm only heading on.
What about yourself, Anthony? A couple weeks ago, if you asked this question, you'd be a bit doom and gloom about it. But as the weeks go by, you see Postecoglou's training methods. You watch his teams, and albeit snippets of 30 minutes each, and they seem to be high press and high energy, and the players have seemed to buy into it as of now, Anthony. Are you more confident getting into the game now, regardless of who was saying? Would you be happy enough getting in with the squad as it stands?
I mean, you always would like to see a couple of additions, of course, especially the ones that have been, sort of really searched out and given the approval of the manager. But I must admit, I think the first game being at home is actually a good thing, because it gives us a marker of where we're going to be going into the second leg. But I think if you to look on paper at our team, and you would imagine guys that have been away at the Euros, sort of Callum McGregor, James Forrest, I think those type of players would be almost a shoe-in to start the match, because just given its magnitude, and we need all our A team essentially out on the park if possible. I think on paper we're more than capable of getting a result. That's not disrespecting the Michelin at all. We'll get it, pronounce it right this time. As Ross alluded to, they've had a couple of very impressive results in Europe in the sort of recent season. So we're on the wrong side of the draw this year. It's one of the major consequences of the disaster that was last season. So we just have to go and not hope for the best, because that sounds as if we're totally up against it. If we turn up, we're more than capable of getting a result. And I think one of the other major factors that we've probably not really touched on just yet, but I'm sure we will as the days go by and we're leading up to the game. I don't know how many are going to be allowed, but just the fact having fans back at Celtic Park is a factor that no team is really going to get. I mean, not until it's a proper full house, but I think those Michelin players are in for a shock. This is a totally different type of stadium to come to, even if there is only, it's only a quarter full or half full or whatever. Whoever's in the ground that night will scream and shout the team on until their throat gives out. It'll be quite an emotional night, I would actually believe. And if the players can channel that energy in a positive manner, then I've absolutely no reason to doubt that we can't go over there to the second leg carrying an advantage.
Well, let's hope, Anthony, it's not like 500 in the stadium, because that would take the piss after what was seen at the European Championships. Like, I think there has to be a clear pathway now for fans to get back in, whether that's through testing, track and trace. I mean, there has to be a way, especially for this season coming. Now, it brings me nicely on to the last part of the show, which is the transfer rumours. We've spent a wee bit talking about the slow activity, and maybe these days will be completed. I mean, what we're seeing now is the Croatian centre-back Fuskovic seems to be gone quiet. He was playing for his team today. Actually, funny enough, he captained his team today. And now we're being linked with a Swedish centre-half, Karl Starfelt, plays for Rubin Kazan in Russia. And also Kyle Edwards, a free agent, formerly of West Brom. Now, I'm seeing a wee trend here, Ross. I don't know about yourself. We seem to be going into the free agent world side of things in regards to Liam Shaw, Uragini. I know that's two examples, but you still have to pay a cross-border compensation fee there. But technically, they were free agents because it came to the end of their contract. Do you think that's a road Celtic are going to have to explore, trying to think outside the box?
Quite possibly. I don't think any is like Celtic's financial footing for certain. But I mean, it can be a market that can be exploited. There can be good players in it. But I mean, as regards that Starfelt, I've not seen him play. But I mean, you're talking about Vuskovic. He's what, 20? Was he 20? 19, 20 that? 19? Yeah. And we're talking about £5 million there. Maybe that's went quiet because this guy has come to fruition. I think he's at a better age at 25. Whether he's a better player, I can't say for sure. But he's gained, certainly in the last 10 months, he's gained international experience. And I think, and I know it's probably only 3 caps, but it's still international experience with like top players round about him. It seems like we're sort of, there's a lot of centre back. I know we need to fill that position, but it seems like he's sort of building for the foundations for the back first, which I think is the right way to go. Your man Edwards, again, it's another guy I've not seen play, but he's a wide man. again, it's a position we need to strengthen, which is fairly obvious. But it seems like he's identifying the important areas that we need to strengthen, which is for me is good. I don't think it's fairly obvious because we've not got guys in the positions, but it's still good that he's trying to identify the positions. But time will tell if he gets it right in the transfer market. There's plenty. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your point.
I was just going to say there's plenty of activity on. There seems to be plenty of activity coming for the club. I mean, granted, there has to be because of the situation with the amount of guys that were on loan and have left. But I don't know. That's all I can really say on it.
In regards to Kyle Edwards, I mean, I've seen a few West Brom blog sites or podcasts saying he's trunks anyway. They were glad to see him leave. I think he made something like 49 appearances over a 5-year spell, a bit like Anthony Ralston for Celtic. And in terms of Karl Starfelt, Anthony, he played the most minutes in a Aruba Kazan team that finished 4th in the Russian league. And again, that's a good standard of football. Most would argue it's better in the SPL, so that kind of bodes well, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And obviously as well, the fact that, and you would like to think, of course, that a certain Mr. Lustig might have been having a wee word in his ear at the Euros as well. Just telling him, just selling the club to him. Not that we need selling to, but if one of your actual teammates is telling you all the good stories, and let's be honest, the big man's got more than a few good stories to tell. He's been one of, I think it was actually one of the biggest stains on the previous administration's card. The way he was treated when he left, there was absolutely no reason for the way that he was treated in my book. He was a vice captain. He was a long-serving stalwart, and he should have been given a far greater send-off if that was the case, that he was going to be getting removed for the club, or at least getting kept on, because I think there was a place for him. But sorry, to answer your question, Stephen. Sorry, I'm doing a John there and going off on a tangent. It's essentially. He's going to kill me for that when this records, when this comes out. I'm only kidding, John. We love you, mate. Oh no! Oh, there's going to be a few PMs coming my way now. But, no, I think I like the look of the big guy at the back. I'm not going to and I can't proclaim to know anywhere near it as much about the boy for West Brom. But I must admit, I wouldn't pay too much attention to some of the broad podcasts down south, because it doesn't actually matter even if he was leaving the club. The fact that he's been linked with us, I think, always creates an image in a lot of football fans down south that the minute the country of Scotland is mentioned, they sort of falsely bring a player down almost. They think of us as a Mickey Mouse league, a backwater, and as we've all kind of alluded to, just ask Shane Duffy if it's easy up here. Ask Joey Barton if it's easy up here. There is a lot of littered waste of the carcasses of players that have came up here thinking they're on a jolly, and duly found out that not to be the case. By the same token, there's a lot of players that have come up here who have been forgotten about down south and really made a name for themselves up here. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about what West Brom fans think about, well, anything really. But yeah, if he comes, he's joining a great club. But I think you pronounce the name better than what I can. But the big Swedish centre half, the rumours seem to have a bit more traction on that front. So yeah, that could be one to keep an eye on in the coming days and weeks.
Yeah,
well,
I think it is.
Sorry, Stephen. I was just going to say his name's Karl Starfelt, and I mean, let's be honest, if he wasn't a football player, that name, he's got a porn star all day long, isn't he? He's a porn star.
Oh man, absolutely.
Well, look, guys. I mean,
Karl Starfelt.
That brings us to the end of the podcast in terms of the segments. We're going to move straight on to a quiz between yourself, Anthony, and Ross. And this quiz is going to be circled around the big debate in world football: Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. and mainly because it's the first quiz I could find on Google. Okay, so we're gonna
okay.
we're gonna crack into it. If you guys are ready, we'll get going.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure, go for it.
No worry. So, question number 1. Messi has spent his entire professional career at Barcelona, but which was his schoolboy team?
Boca Juniors?
Not a clue.
Don't know.
No, Newell's Old Boys. Right.
Oh
Question-
man, I've just read the wee boy. I've just read the wee boy a bit about Messi, and just when you're saying that there, yeah, it's you're right.
Terrible, Anthony.
Should have got that.
Here. Question 2. Which Portuguese team did Ronaldo play for before signing for Manchester
Sporting
United?
Lisbon.
Anthony, heard you first. You're one up.
What?
Question. Question.
I answered that while you were talking.
Ronaldo was famous with the number 7, but what other number did he wear at Real Madrid?
9.
That's 1 each. Ross, you're back in.
Well done, mate.
So, number 4. Messi famously retired from international duty in which year before reversing his decision?
2016. 2016.
2-1. Yep, definitely. Question 5. Ronaldo acclaims which word when celebrating a goal?
What?
Vamos.
He says a word. He says a word. It's a word for yes in Spanish.
Vamos.
No. See.
See.
No.
Oh, right.
Question 6. Messi wore the number 30 at the start of his Barcelona career, and now is number 10. What other number has he worn for the club?
18.
That should be easy. No, 1 up from that.
19.
19.
Anthony, you got it. Ross, you're so slow.
Oh my god, man, this is the worst. I can't wait till we go live to start winning quizzes.
You said 18.
Stephen,
Go ahead.
I must admit, mate, that was the shittiest quiz I think you've done so far. I missed the Celtic ones. I'm not going to lie.
The reason why I do these quizzes at the end of the show is just to have a wee light-hearted discussion, a wee light-hearted bit of fun. The Celtic quizzes for me, I need to work on them for the new season. I mean, a bit of international flavour doesn't go amiss, boys, does it? I mean, with the European Championships and stuff. So
absolutely not. The Euros, the Copa America, yeah. I suppose a wee bit of international flavour is good to mix it up a bit.
Exactly, and it gives a bit of knowledge to everybody, doesn't it?
Is that the quiz finished? I don't know if that's
But guys, Anthony and Ross, thanks for coming on. Have you enjoyed this one?
Aye, very much so, mate.
Absolutely. Always do, mate. Always good being on with yourself and my right honourable friend, Mr. Muir, as well.
Nice one.
I've not been on it.
That sounds right.
So I've actually missed it. Or a week away, but I've really enjoyed it, and I always enjoy coming on with Anthony.
Yeah, well, guys, it's been a good
Thanks,
show.
Man. Likewise.
And the people who are listening, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.